Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Create Talks. Woo! Oh gosh, I have Lyndsie Schnoor. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Theresa?
I am so good. Lyndsie, we have been enjoying a full year. We've done so much so far. It's like I'm just thinking about all of the connecting points of your life and my life. You are really such a powerful woman. And if you want to ask her any questions about her journey, it's called Listening to the Song Inside of You. And we're going to talk about her journey, but she's a BSSM third year and she online at Bethel, and she's growing so much in her identity. I just am so excited for people to hear about your journey. And so we are in the process. She's in Create Academy with me, so you'll see her if you're on Create Academy. But just a shout out to those that are from Create Academy. So glad that you guys are on. But let us know where you're from. If you have any questions throughout, put that in there too. She's going to be talking about her new song release, so we'll talk about that in a second. But when did you first learn, Lyndsie, about the power of music? And then it would be a part of your life, and that you would be connected to God in your music as well. So let's dive into this story. Go for it.
Yeah. I actually called my dad yesterday and asked him, like, what were your thoughts of when you think music was first? And he's like, honestly, you can call your mom too, but we think you were singing before you ever talked. And
Oh,
honestly, that really is my memory is I used to sing to the trees and sing to the sky and make up songs about everything. And I would say, like, then the very first material memories that I have of it being something that was more than just a part of me was in third grade. We were expected to get up and sing the national anthem, and I got up and sang it. And I remember my teacher looked at me and she said, "You are incredibly gifted." Which is crazy because in my life, and we'll probably talk about some of that later, she is the first person that ever positively called something out. And one of the last ones that I remember doing for like a really long time. So aside from her, I also got a keyboard around that same time.
hmm.
And I never received piano lessons. I just had an affinity to hear and play. So
Come
I
on.
am self-taught. So those two things were the ones that I could come up with.
No, I love this journey that both your parents, your dad, it's like he already recognized it. I remember just a story from my own life. I remember when my granddaughter was about three, 2 or 3, and her brother was born. We were in the hospital, and she was holding him for the first time, and she started to sing the song "Flowers Bloom and Grow" from one of her favorite movies called Tangled. And I'm just sitting there going, the look on her face of delight, like, okay, she could talk, but it wasn't about talking, wasn't about saying I love my little brother. It was about a song that communicated her heart. And that's what I love about your story. Like your music communicated the heart behind it, like what you're, and the way that God would just set you up with a keyboard.
Yeah.
He's so good. God is going to set some of you up out there. Know that. Like God is setting, and think about your own journey of being a creative and when you first realized that you were called to create in whatever field. I love that. This is so fun. Now, share about your heart for writing songs, because you know what your dream was when you were younger and what you've done presently. But let's share about how did that evolve? Because we know that you loved music. We know that you would sing no matter what. But when did you first realize like writing songs would be a part of your life?
I love what you just said. It's giving me better language that it's a form of communication. Um, Aside from music, I loved everything from what we would consider the arts and creativity. So I was writing poetry and journaling and drawing all around the same time as this as a little kid. And I don't know that I ever thought, oh, wow, now I'm going to start writing music. It was natural for me that what I was putting tune to had words.
Hmm.
So it just was a natural process that as I was writing music with the piano that the counterpart to that was, well, what's it saying? And
Yes.
I was trying to come up with the right language for it because I don't know that I ever had a moment where I was like, oh, I want to write music. It was a natural way for me to release something inside of me.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love the fact that it was just kind of a part of you. It's what you were born for. I remember because we just celebrated our anniversary. We were talking about that last week at January 7th. And so I'm with my grandkids, my son, who they were celebrating their anniversary the day after. And we're talking about, well, and my little 10-year-old granddaughter says, well, Mimi, how did you meet? And we said, well, we met at my parents' prayer meeting. But then we were prayer partners. And what did we do? We went up to this little prayer chapel we had, and we both sang songs that we'd written on the guitar. And that was our way of connecting. That was our way of it wasn't talking, it was music. It was a creative form that told who we were, but it was very natural for us. I didn't I wasn't raised with guitar lessons, whatever, but I was raised to sing and make music. In the same way, here you are, Lyndsie. You begin this journey of just writing. It's a part of you. You begin this journey of singing and writing. And this was something that was a part of you. I think that's important that creativity is a part of us. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, and then I started to sing and that's different than who I am. No, it comes out through you, which is what I love. So what thoughts or beliefs uh, because all of us go through that season, and I know that you've done this talk on this very thing that where the God really gives you a desire, a gift. Sometimes the enemy comes in and
Yeah.
start to, I would say, like help us to go, no, that's not, you can't do that. It feeds into discounting that dream, that belief system. So when did that first start? Like, what was it? Just you? Was it the enemy? Was it culture? When did you start to doubt that dream, or was that an issue for you?
Um, I would say, and I know that this isn't a novel thing to say, that as human beings, and I know one of my big things is I'm a words of affirmation person. Like I really like to be told, good job. And as a child, before knowing this, I gave a lot of weight to people that I considered to be leaders or mentors or a director of some point in my life. Whatever their weigh-in was on things, I really trusted that more than I trusted what God said over my life and destiny. So I would say
Mm.
immediately, pretty much. Immediately, I was a part of, I had some really cool opportunities as a kid growing up with traveling performance groups and then moving into show choirs and dance teams and all this. But it was an often um, cited thing in my life that the very places that I really felt like God was calling me into, there would be someone in position over my life that would say, you're not good enough. Maybe this is an opportunity for somebody else. There's a lot more room for improvement. You're not formally trained. And there was so many things that logically, none of them were wrong. So
Yeah.
I tended to kind of be a student of what the fear of man said instead of a proponent of what God said about me.
Yeah, we were just talking about that in our leadership track and create academy this morning, how sometimes that feedback that we're getting, because our identity isn't set, we come at it from a negative side, or that person who said it didn't say it in a way that was positive to our heart. What happens is that seed, and guys, I have to tell you, like this happens to so many. If this is you, let us know. But that seed gets buried, and we start to believe it. And even though it's not true, the enemy likes to confirm that by our thoughts. Well, yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, this girl does sing better. Yeah, I don't know if I have this right. Whatever it is. But what happens is like we start to believe the lie. And when that happens, the opportunities get diminished, our hearts get depressed, and we don't feel like singing. We don't feel like writing. We that gift gets buried. And if that's you, You're going to get healed today. This is part of your journey. We want to see you grow and thrive because don't let the enemy block you from your dream and what you're called to be. This is a time when hope is going to arise in your life. I can feel it right now, Lyndsie.
Me too.
So so in your journey, you became a worship leader, which is incredible at a church. That is an amazing church. This is a great opportunity for you. And you had the courage to say, well, could we do this thing and possibly do this thing for Christmas? And I want you to share the backstory. Like, what was your heart saying? You had and how did you perceive that as important? And why did you ask your church to support you in that dream? So share about that.
Yeah, so I'll kind of connect the dots. So this has been the fruit of moving from having a lot of my identity and performance based in what everybody else says and what happens when you move into being confident about what God says. And I really had it on my heart to want to do a late night Christmas Eve service. Logistically, because we have family plans that we're not around during the day, but also because I grew up in a really rich tradition. And it was my entire extended family. We'd go to 11 o'clock service every single year of my life. And me and my other 9 cousins would take up the last 2 pews. And it was totally cool if we were in pajamas and sleeping and
Exactly.
candlelight and silent night. And then the part that always hit me the most was that everybody stuck around to tell each other Merry Christmas as Christmas was being ushered in. And that community standpoint, that culture is what I wanted to do with music and with the Christmas Eve service at our church. And I knew it was a big ask because traditions are also hard to break if they look different for anybody. But leadership was super supportive. And they're like, yeah, take it and run with it. We don't know how many people are actually going to show up. And kind of the running, I mean, kind of running joke in anticipation was that there wasn't a lot of expectation. I knew what
Mm,
my heart wanted, and
yes.
it became like a 2 month project of these awesome people that said yes with me, and we were in my living room singing together and preparing the hymns. And my husband built a manger, and I learned how to put up lights up in the fly deck of the auditorium. And it comes time. And I think that if I remember correctly, I could have this off a little bit. My pastor's like, okay, we got 60 candles. I'm like, okay, I guess that's great, whatever. 250 people show up.
Woo! Come on.
And of the 250 people, there was a significant number of people that don't attend church and may or may not have ever been introduced to Jesus. And it is honestly one of the greatest memories of my entire adult life to look out and see people of all ages worshiping God
Um,
on the most important birthday of the year.
yes.
And um, it came at this really interesting intersection where I wanted to do this for God. And the amount of feedback, as we're
Yeah.
using that word, whether it was well motivated to don't get your hopes up, or it was this isn't what my normal tradition was. I don't want to do this. Having to come into this intersection again of receiving all this feedback and
Yes.
deciding in that moment, is this good because it was for God? Or
Yeah.
is it good because of everybody's opinions? And Teresa knows, like I processed through a lot of it. Some of it was very difficult for me, but at the very end of the day, I can look at Christmas Eve of 2024 and say that is a testament to the favor of God intersecting the favor of man,
Yeah.
and all glory was for Jesus.
Yes. And to follow your heart no matter because you saw the vision, you saw the people, you saw the impact from your past. You wanted to honor that. And so
Yeah.
you stepped out. And I think right now, if you're listening right now and we'll be listening, I want you to know like this is a word for 2025. Like we are not going to be in the shadows anymore. We are moving out into these dreams, these visions, no matter what. the culture says, no matter what other people say, because it's a God thing.
And
And we're honoring it for God. So I feel like you're picking up on what God is doing. We do have a question out here. I love questions. If you have any questions for Lyndsie, please let us know. But can Lyndsie share an encounter with the Lord that she revealed about her identity to sing and write? Good
mm,
question. Thank you, Jacqueline. Jacqueline's on, Julie's on, Jessica. We have our three J's on. That's awesome. So, anyway, sharing encounters with the Lord that revealed your identity as a singer songwriter.
um, I'll share the first one that came to mind. I'm also very much a dreamer. God really communicates to me in dreams. So this was a dream that I had, actually more recent. So it wasn't one that was at the very beginning of life. So it was more of a revelatory dream that's probably taken place the last 10 years. I dreamt that Mariah Carey was driving me to this massive auditorium. And
Mm,
when I got into the auditorium, there was a ton of seats, but there was nobody in the seats. And I went down to sit in the seat, and she grabbed me and said, "You've got 5 minutes before it's time for you to get on stage. This has been prepared for you. You need to get ready." And there was other parts of the dream, but I went into a deep dive of it because it was such a profound dream that look up Mount Moriah. So Mariah Carey stood for a lot of other things, but it was a reawakening because
mm,
I had really set aside the dream of writing and singing outside of like my family and my community influence until it got reawakened by God, and he asked me, if you truly believe that what I give to one is meant to be multiplied to others, are you willing to trust me with what I've given to you? And let me be the first one to tell you, if you're a private person, when God asks you to trust him in that area, it is
yeah,
really nerve-wracking. Like even talking about this song today is really hard for me, but that's a part of the trust fall with God, that if we
yeah.
truly believe that he's willing to multiply with whatever we give him, then we got to give it to him.
Yeah, and we aren't responsible for how it grows. We're not responsible for how many people show up or listen. We're just responsible to actually obey and do what he's called us to do, and then let him have the rest. It's just so interesting. I think of that little boy who gave Jesus his loaves and fish. And here he is, he just gives that to him. And look at what he saw. He saw that miracle because he gave it to Jesus. And so many of us need to see behind the scenes of that little boy and how he wanted to give everything and how that's how we are to be. It's just crazy. Okay, we
Mm.
have another question. I love what you're saying. This is so powerful, Lyndsie. What roadblocks or distractions have you had to overcome to step into your destiny? And how did you overcome? Great question.
Um, oh my gosh, what's not a roadblock? If there's not a physical roadblock on not knowing something, not having the acuity from a talent standpoint, or anything the world would say is a roadblock. So for me, I would say like releasing a song. How do you get copy written? What companies are out there? How do you get represented? How do you create a lyric video? How do you have a music video? And all these things can like
Yeah,
stockpile on top of them. And the reality is that if you're only reliant on what you can do, you've
yeah.
totally removed God and his faithfulness and his intentionality, that if he's going to get it done, he's going to get it done with or without you. And for me, it's been a daily practice of that when I see a roadblock, that what I can give to God is to remain steadfast. I can say, I'm not going to quit moving forward, but you got to move them and you got to teach me how to get over them.
Mm. So really doing it with the Lord has
Yeah.
really helped you and not seeing from a practical mindset all of the loops and hoops and things that you have to go through and then stopping, but it's also saying, okay, God, you prepare a way, which he did
Yeah.
in your journey of writing the song. So now let's move on. Let's share about your song that you wrote and when it's going to come out. I'm so excited and be released so that other people can download. And just as you're doing this, share with us what we can put in the chat. It's coming out on Friday, right?
It is. Yep.
Woo! Okay, so share where people can find your song.
Okay, Friday at midnight, wherever you're at in the world, it drops on every major platform. And I didn't know there was more platforms, forgive me for saying this, than like iTunes and Spotify until this journey. But there's like 150 different platforms. So if you've got access to music, you can get this song. I did share some links. I don't know if they're going to get in there or not. I tried to get them to Heidi, but there is an iTunes link and a Apple Music link that I did have access to. And on YouTube on my page, the official lyric video gets dropped at the same time too.
Sweet. And the song is called,
Lift up your heads.
so write that in there, Lift Up Your Heads by Lyndsie, and share the spelling of her last name. This is so exciting. I am just praying that this song goes completely viral, goes out to see. So I've already listened to it. I'm just so excited. But this is exciting because I wanted to share what is the backstory of you writing it? Where did that come from? What is the story of that?
I have the full story in one of my latest podcast episodes, so I'm going to shorten it. I
Okay.
was at a conference in Chicago in 2021, 2022 to hear Heidi Baker talk. And before she got up to preach, we had worship. And halfway through worship, it went into spontaneous worship, and it was absolutely awesome. And I just started, it wasn't singing so much as screaming at the top of my lungs, lift up your heads. And I had kind of a moment that was it was an experience and revelatory
Mhm.
that I had this indignant feeling in me that us as kingdom people needed to have a posture change. And I just kept singing it and screaming it at the top of my lungs to lift up your heads, like be prepared to see him when he comes in. And I didn't know that that was a download that became like a 3-year process of a song that
Wow.
I just kept meeting with the Lord over Psalm 24 on what does it look like to have a posture change? That yes, we are to be at the feet of Jesus, but this is the same Jesus that wants to look each one of us in the face and know us and be known. And what would it look like to lead a people, angelic and human beings alike, into a song and an anthem to watch Jesus walk down the aisle of the throne room and to sit down in celebration. And that's really what this is. It's an encounter. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And share about the cover, because the cover you have the angels, like you're up in the throne room. So you're gonna love the cover too. But how did you come up with that? And how did you design that?
So I got on Chat GPT. Hey,
Yeah.
I think AI is a gift from God. It is
Oh my
so
gosh,
cool.
it totally is.
And I had a little conversation with ChatGPT and basically told AI what my mind's eye was seeing until I got it edited correctly. And what you will see then is essentially what I have seen the throne room of heaven to look like. And it's specifically looking down the center aisle, and it shows everybody as royalty.
Yeah,
And if I could, but I don't know how to animate, that these people would stand up then and with all the hosts of heaven welcome Jesus into the throne room.
I love it. Oh, that's the power of what can happen is that I mean, there's something that happens when you look at an image and then you sing the song that you actually are in it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I saw Mary Poppins and we're seeing the merry-go-round and all of a sudden they go off of the merry-go-round, they go out. It's like there's something that a song and a visual is meant to lead you somewhere outside of even I would say the parameters of what we can see with our naked eye. God wants to show us our spiritual eye in Ephesians 1. And I feel like that's what this song does. And so your graphics couldn't be just of this world.
Mhm.
You're taking them up. You're taking them up into a different realm. and the words and the lyrics are so powerful. Well, would you like a sneak peek out there? If you would just raise your hands, we're going to get a sneak peek of this amazing song that you can get on all these channels at midnight on Friday. So this is amazing. On Saturday, everybody should be finding this song, downloading it. So go for it. Let's hear it. Lindsay,
Okay, let's go.
woohoo!
All right, can you guys see it?
Oh yeah, we're there. We're there.
Lift up your heads, you gates. Lift up your hands in praise. Lift up your heads. Lift up your heads. Lift up your heads, you gates. We join the ancient praise. Lift up your heads. Lift up your hands, that the King may enter. The King may enter in. The King may, the King of glory, King Jesus enter in. We welcome you in. Lift up your heads, you gates. Lift up your hands in praise. Lift up your heads. Lift up your heads. Lift up your heads, you gates. We join the ancient praise. We lift up our heads. We lift up our hands, that the King may enter. The King may enter in. The King may, the King of glory, King Jesus enter in. We welcome you in.
Wow, I was getting lost. Oh, let us know what you felt when you heard that song, everybody. I feel like you just have to raise your hands. I don't know. It was just like I have got to raise my hands. I have got to enter into this heavenly realm. You're going to get so many different comments on your song because it moves people to respond. You know, you kind of have to respond to what he's saying and where he's at. And this is almost, I felt like this is what I felt too when I was hearing it again. I felt like it's almost like I could see Jesus like almost like a procession entering into this area and of heaven, and then everybody else like raising up to worship him. But there's just that sense of he's moving, he's wanting to create life, he's wanting to do something in our hearts. What is your hope for this song? I mean, if you could see anything happen from the whole process of how many years it took to compile, to write, to do every nuance for, and that's your vocals behind it too, right? The background vocals. Share about like what is your hope, what is your desire?
My desire is that people would encounter Jesus. That truly what I'm the most excited about, and I cut it off right before it went into the bridge, but the harmonies that God gave me
Mm,
are nothing less than angelic. And I'm not saying that as even like patting myself on the back, but they aren't of this world.
yeah,
And for people to be able to experience something tangible
yeah,
for a world that's really hungry, I think that music transcends communication because where words can fall away, you're impacted by melody in a way that's eternal. And
yeah.
I want to see people changed by music.
Come on. Come
Yeah.
on. I love that. I think that that's part of the journey, isn't it? That we're not of this world and we're not, we have to make that bridge. We have to make that, I would say, that epiphany moment where we go, wait a second, I'm not, this song is an eternal song. It'll be sung in heaven. It'll be sung after I'm gone. Like it's something that you are building into the fabric of, this is a legacy for your kids. This is a legacy for those that are on the journey of life with you. And that's the beauty of creating. And I think about this, the question about, well, what did you have to overcome? Believe me, everybody, when you create something and it houses the presence of God, you have to overcome. It's in childbirth, you have to overcome. And then you see this baby and you go, of course it was worth it, right? And so that's what you're going to find out on midnight on Friday. The thing that I wanted to talk about too is this beautiful thing that a lot of creatives out there might not know about, but it's the beauty of being in a community of people that walk with you in the journey of bringing heaven to earth. And there's nothing like that. I hope and pray that anybody who will be listening to this who doesn't understand that that is a part of God's nature is that we would live in community, that you would hear this message because you're not meant to do it alone and you're not meant to create alone. And
Amen.
and so share about how Create Academy, share about what's happening with business and how that has helped bridge the dream inside of you because a lot of people like we learned about today in our leadership track, didn't grow up with positive feedback.
Right.
Oh, you want to sing? Wow. Well, what really can you do to get earn money? Like there's just these mindsets that are unspoken sometimes. I mean, it's not even said, but you can just tell like, oh, this is an inferior reality to what the culture is saying is valuable. But share about how the community around you has supported you, is cheering you on, but why that's so vital for every creative to have.
The first scriptural story that I think about is when Moses had his arms lifted up.
Mm,
And I can't remember if it was the Amalekites that they were fighting, but if his arms came down, they were losing. And as long as his arms were lifted, he was fine. But he got tired and he needed to have each arm held above his
yeah.
head by, I think it was Aaron and some other guy. But
But it was
Create
Aaron and
Academy,
her. Aaron and
yes.
yeah.
Um, Create Academy for me, like looking back even over the last 7 months, because I didn't know God was going to do this in the last 7 months. um, was a very intentional source of people that were willing to raise my arms up and people that didn't do it just because it was the right thing to do, but an intentional community of people that really love well. And for anybody that's grown up in a creative culture, that it's very cutthroat and competitive. And
Yes.
when you are introduced into a community of people that actually thrive on celebrating the success of one another,
Yes.
that has been really instrumental for me. That even when I wasn't aware of it, because the last 6 months have been really hard, that looking back, the people that I was the most excited to connect with or that were reaching out were any number of people from my small groups in Create Academy, the women from the workshops. It's just been literally one of the greatest blessings ever.
Yeah, it really is. I want to just go to theresadedmon.com. We'll put that in the chat. We'll give you a certain discount for the first month just for trying. But there's something, and I hope that you guys all listen to me. It's like the gift that you have, Lyndsie, and the power of the message behind this is just your first song, but it's like now you're helping other people to create songs in Create Academy. And I just saw Amy Francis and so many more that we've talked about that are doing that. But it's like this thing of it's a gift to, I think it's a gift to share your heart. It's a gift to open up to let the Holy Spirit come into that process of creating. But then it's a whole other thing to go, hey, I want now to connect to other people and help them grow, because this gift isn't just for me, but it's for others. And that's just kingdom. That's what Jesus did. And and I'm just really excited because there's something in community that we are seeing that it cannot, you cannot do it alone. There's so much, it would have taken you, I don't know how many more years, but because of the grace of God and how we prayed and what God did, it became a reality, right? And that's what we want. And part of that is because, unless you have mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers supporting you, it it's something that it can easily be thwarted. You have to be in community, which is such a biblical principle. And I'm just thrilled by what God is doing. There's a couple more here of comments that I wanted to share with you. Oh, this is from Andrea. Andrea says, we lift up our hands, our King. Amazing. I will sing this all day in my studio. Oh my gosh, Andrea is a great creative. She's in Create Academy and a great studio, and she's a sculptor. Uh, Jacqueline's dancing around the room. We love you, Jacqueline. Jessica Hunter loves it. Heidi says, I felt a pull to be in God's presence and stay there. Ooh, I like that, Heidi. And stay there. Oh my goodness. Well, if you wanted to right now, this is up to you. If you wanted to sing prophetically for people about God's heart for them, you can, or we can impart whatever you want to do to bless people. So Heidi, it's yours.
I really feel to sing it over everybody right now.
Come on.
All right, you guys.
Yeah, come on.
Lift up your heads, you gates. Lift up your hands in praise. Lift up your heads. Lift up your hands. Lift up your heads, you gates. We join the ancient praise. We lift up our heads and lift up our hands that the King may enter. The King may enter in. The King may, the King of glory, King Jesus enter in. We welcome you in.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Whatever you do, download that song by Lyndsie. You've got to get that song. Wow. We love you, Lyndsie. Give it up for Lyndsie. Lyndsie, we can't wait to see the fruit of what you have fought for in your life so that you could become all that God has called you to be and who you're touching in community. We just thank you for that and can't wait to see what happens next week. Love
Thank
you,
you,
Heidi.
Theresa. Love you so much.
Love you more.